Hey everyone, welcome to the Crossover Celebrity channel. My name is Tina Ducharme and I am a soul alignment coach, and I help people expand their definition of who they think they are by using several methods, including the soul contract, which is why I created this channel. Because on this channel, I team up with a celebrity who's crossed over to the other side, and we go through their soul contract and pull some oracle cards and get some messages that they want to share with everybody from their journey that they had here during their lifetime. And so we will end with a final mantra. So I'm very excited today, as you know, because we're bringing forth a very beautiful American icon, Jackie Kennedy. And we're going to delve into her life and what she would like to share with the viewers. And so it's she's just such a wonderful energy and is really very strong, but yet has this very reserved, graceful beauty about her. So I'm going to get right into it. And so if you're new here to the channel, thank you for joining us. And please like, share, and subscribe as I'm trying to grow the channel. And so without further ado, I am going to share my screen and we are going to get right into it. And so here is the beautiful Jackie Kennedy. Obviously, she was not born with that name. And so this is what a soul contract looks like. I always put a short introductory video that I have done in the description box below in case you're wanting to learn more about how I put the charts together and a little bit of the history about the soul contract. So again, let me spotlight my mouse here. So, so she was born because your soul contract is based off of your birth name. Now, so when she would have married John F. Kennedy, and she was married to Aristotle Onassis, and she changed her name so as to add another level of energies. But I like to focus on the birth name because those energies play out throughout your life, and they're the patterns that most are ingrained for people that came here to experience these particular vibrations. So again, Jackie Kennedy was married to John F. Kennedy, our 35th president, I believe. And so she was well known for being this most beautiful first lady. She had a lot of tragedy around her, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And just the fact that she was really this icon, and people were really drawn to her because she's still rated super high on the list of most influential people in the world. And just people know her. I mean, she was a trend setter in fashion. People really looked up to her and idolized her in a way, looked at her life and, you know, copied things from her. And so she was really this kind of leader, but not somebody who was looking to be a leader. She became this leader through becoming in the public eye and then learning a lot about herself through her chart, and she was meant to do great things. I mean, there's no doubt. We all are in our own way, just because, you know, so we're all can have similar charts. And I talk about celebrities as being kind of most of the time a little bit of these older souls. They come here and they end up touching so many lives. And so that to me is this older soul, somebody who's learned a lot of their lessons. And so then they come here to serve in one way or another, making change in cultures and things. And she was definitely a big part of that. I just want to pull up I have on my other screen here more of the Wikipedia, background information. When I'm connecting with her, it's more on her energies here and what that meant for her in her lifetime. But I don't want to cut short any of these great things that she did while she was here. And most notably, just she had this great love of history. And so she also revamped the whole White House. And I mean, she restored it and made it just this very beautiful, wonderful place. And so she really had this great style and could really pull things together. And we must remember, she was only 31 when her husband was elected president, when John F. K. was elected president. So she was a very young woman and looked at herself as a little bit of a liability to John F. Kennedy, because she was raised very much very high, what we would consider high class socialite. And when John F. Kennedy was going to run, he was really trying to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. And that was kind of his idealism. And he was very concerned about, and his, the political party that they were doing was really concerned about her, viewing that people would view her as a snob. But she was very articulate. And like I said, she just carried herself with such dignity. And she was never what I would consider snobbish in how she treated people. So it's not about, again, your status in society, it's how you treat people. And so I feel she's really earned this title. She really, she was a very kind person, caring, considerate, wonderful person. So I love this picture of her because, she's riding these horses in her soul destiny. She has aids. Aids tend to relate to animals better than people sometimes. And so she had this great love of animals, but horses also represent freedom. And she has this karmic 5, and this is a very big number for her because this meant a lot about her coming into her freedom in her life. And so, I'll talk a little bit more here shortly about what that meant, but it was hard to find a lot of pictures of her alone because she was so identified with being Jackie Kennedy or Jackie O and, with her family. But she really drew me to this picture because of the fact she was so close to her two children. And she did have 4 children. She had a lot of, I consider, very tragic things happen to her, but these are all life lessons, and I just have great compassion for her. So that was where kind of her leadership came in as to how people viewed her as handling these very tough situations. So she had 2 children, as you know, Caroline and John Jr., who also has crossed over to the other side and is with his mom. So they are reunited there, and Caroline is carrying the torch, and the grandchildren are carrying the torch as well for her part of the family. But she did have a miscarriage, and then she had a stillborn daughter. So and then obviously she would, if all of her children had survived, she would have had 5 children because of the miscarriage. That they don't reference that in a lot of the background information for her. But then she had her, the year that John F. Kennedy was assassinated was a really tough year for her because they had a son, Jack, that died. He only lived several days in the same year. So I just am so touched by her life and the lessons that she took on, to overcome. And so when we talk about her childhood, She got in trouble in school. That's very typical when you have fives in your karma, because they can be very impulsive and they speak the truth even if others don't want to hear it. And sometimes they can come across as being rude. And so she had a very good sense of self. She was very close to her father and grandfather, who gave her this. Also, her dad was really big into dressing well. And so she gained a lot of, her skills from him, and her sense of self as well, really getting this great father figure who encouraged her. But remember, this was a time where women stood in the background for the most part. And so what happens with a five, they're very sensitive people. And her, she would be very sensitive to energies around her. I talk about this a lot because JFK had fives in his chart. It's tied to their speech, and they make great writers. And when you have it in karma, you're always being tasked with, because karma is your opportunities for growth. So you'll get tasked with a lot of the negative side of the fives, because it's meant to push you into the positive side, which is all about this great, like I said, being a great writer or speaker, or stepping into your truth and, defining your boundaries of who you are. And so, but on the negative side of it, it really can bring you down. She struggled with depression, which is very understandable for many of the things. And so she could be very subject to that. And I know I was watching too, where she would attend some of these events, and they were really long, drawn out, kind of these partying events, and it would just exhaust her, because when you're a five, you can take on a lot of energy from others. So it's very hard. And she would just be exhausted, and she would end up leaving to go home early to go to bed, because, like I said, she was super, super sensitive. And so that played a role in her, her energy levels. And so fives need to have their space, and they need to have this sense of freedom and being able to recharge their batteries and things like that. So, but again, it can also make them very impulsive decisions, and maybe do things not thinking very clearly. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Now, I talk a little bit about the physical side here, which is the physical part of the triangle and the soul contract, because it's usually where we start in our lives, is the physical side. And then as we get older and we learn our lessons, we start to work more into the spiritual side of the chart. And so she had these lovely, lovely talents, which are fours. It's a very physical number. It gives you this great capacity for learning. And she loved history, and it's all about having children. And so it's about learning to share of yourself. And she was just such a giver of herself with her children, and so selfless. And that's what children are meant to do, is to be, become this selfless one, person. The one thing I'll say about her too with the fives, that again, this people pleasing, back in that time and that era, being that she was raised in the socialite high class, her and her sister were really pushed by their mother to marry at a high level and to be a member of high society. So particular families, again, it's a very judgmental, but is all based on fear, right? Keeping what you have, and keeping a certain status, because that's very fear-based, and it's actually considered a lack mentality. But so they were actually very worried about her, because she was the older sister and not finding anyone to marry right away. And so, and we're talking about, being married young, like this 18, 19. And I tried to look here to see when she did get married. Because I know she was only 31 when she was in the White House, and so young. but, and like I said, you know, so when you have fives, you're kind of more, so I just wanted to see when, so they got engaged in 1953. So she would have been like 24, 25. I mean, so like this, basically a child, but they're like, oh my gosh, you're going to be an old maid and you have to marry somebody really rich and powerful. And so, but of course, the Kennedys really loved her because they loved that, you know, she was raised with no scandals and things like that, because they were also very concerned about their image and the fact that she was so articulate and graceful and beautiful. And when she spoke several languages, I mean, this is a very, very intelligent woman. And yet, like I said, she still saw herself as a little bit of a liability to JFK because they kind of put that in her head that people were going to look down on her and consider her a snob and that she's not going to fit in. But people just loved her. And it was because she was so giving of herself and her time. And that she, you know, she did like a movie thing of the tours of the White House, and she explained our history. And she emanated this, fours emanate when they're in their talents, because even in talents, you can get some negative aspects, but you could really see her radiate this. It's the sun energy, and she just glows, and people are really drawn to that. And just the fact that she shared of herself, and you never heard her saying bad things about anybody. This was not somebody who came across negatively. She was a super positive and person and came across that way and was so just didn't talk down to anybody and so engaged with people. And that comes in her soul destiny. That was part of why she came here, was to really emotionally connect with society. It wasn't about her being separate at all. It was about her really connecting. And she did just a fabulous job, you know, of that. So her goals in these, having a 6 in your goals is really tied to your creativity. And so it's about you learning about taking risks, because she also has a 6 in karma. And so she would, again, like I said, she was set up to have to be married to somebody of a certain stature. And so this creativity, this 6 is all about learning to become, bringing out the creativity. And that's, and you can see in her design capability, her style, her being this, turning into this fashion icon. And because she brought a level of her own, it wasn't that she was relying on others to do her style. I mean, she had stylists, but she chose certain things. She learned about cultures and colors and how that would fit together. I mean, she was so, again, the 4s are about abundance and trust in the flow, but it's also about gathering all this knowledge and learning it and learning about others' cultures. And that just shows what great respect she has for other people. And she was so, so what turned out to be what they thought was she was going to be a hindrance to his political career, she ended up being one of his greatest assets because of this wonderful creativity that she brought to the table and maturity at you know, this old soul and this young body. I mean, how many 31-year-olds could you see handling what being in the White House and how losing your privacy, because she was all about freedom with this 5. So that was something she struggled with her whole life, was this perception of losing her freedom, her personal life, her, you know, always being in the public eye and losing kind of that sovereignty by always being, you know, especially she was a very super protective. It's our very paternal protective of your children. And again, not wanting people to take advantage of that. So, but yet, like I said, so this was kind of her physical side of her chart. And as things started to progress and she starts to work into the spiritual side, you can see that, because in her 3s is where the communication starts to come from. She's starting to come out of the 3s that you have this kind of labyrinth symbol. So it's people who are starting to understand who they are, understanding their feelings, how they're expressing themselves, because threes are all about communication and learning how to communicate what you're feeling, and that's how you connect with others, because if you're not connecting with how you're feeling, it gets lost as not being insincere. People, again, we're all vibrational beings, so we pick up on people's vibrations, and AIDS also gave her this great grounding capability to be able to bring her energy and ground it, because fives can be, and sixes in karma can be very ungrounded. So again, she could be up in her head a lot and not really being present. So that would be something she'd have to work on. But again, she had these great talents of the physical fours that would really help her with that. And this is where threes are all about being a leader. They're all about, teaching others. And fives are very much about pioneer energies. So her stepping into who she really is, who she was meant to be, and really embracing this leadership, which gradually she works through in her life. And you can kind of see that now. The 20-2 in her spiritual goals was really gave her this great flowing energy, and it's all about flexibility and movement and balancing your emotions. And so this was about discovering herself and then showing others the way. This is really, her goals are very much about being this icon and a leader and showing grace and respect and all of these wonderful positive, things, vibrations that are, that we're all trying to work on. It doesn't mean she was perfect, because she would get caught up in a little bit of this negativity from the fives, especially with the tragedy that she had with losing children and then the assassination. So the 20-2 is all about her accepting her duties and responsibilities, her great organizational skills, and allowing herself to grow and expand spiritually. Because 20-2, she was raised Catholic and then was married in the Catholic Church with JFK. So what ends up happening is she was kind of staying back in the shadow, but being in the White House, she started to come into her own, expressing herself, being this great icon. And then the tragedy struck with her sitting. I mean, just think about the effects of sitting next to somebody you love, your husband, being shot and killed, and the way she carried herself through that whole business. And you could kind of see, because she was so strong, she kind of disconnected herself a little bit, right? Emotionally. The fives and sixes can kind of do that, because it was important for her to be able to step back later, get through like the funeral, be what she thought other people needed her to be, and be this, and get through that part, and then figure out the grieving process and how she was going to work through that with her children. And because things are very difficult, a lot of, I'm sure she kind of came through as suffering a lot from like a PTSD. And then, she relied really heavily. She became really close with John's brother, Bobby. And so he helped raise the kids. And I believe it was like 5 years. And then he was assassinated. And this really knocked her into, she really, she got into a depression after losing JFK, because again, being a woman, she hadn't stepped truly into her power in this era. So you're looking for a man for that support, and power and being able to have someone to lean on. And she was leaning very heavily on Bobby. And then that happened. And so that was really kind of a spiral for her, where she fell back into this pattern, because she was so consumed with the fact that her 2 children being Kennedys, are all Kennedys a target? She was really, really just super, super concerned with that. And so then she gets into this marriage, agrees to marrying this Aristotle Onassis, which it was really a marriage out of necessity, where he had the wealth, he was a billionaire, he could give her the security and isolation. He owned an island that she was looking for, because she was looking to get away from all of that and to get her kids out of this. And you certainly cannot blame her for that. But this again comes from the 5s, the kind of an impulsive, not getting back on her feet. She was very, a little bit, the 20s can be a little bit about the imbalance here. And so that marriage was not really the best for her. And, she would say, everything is a learning experience, but again, maybe not doing it for the right reasons and being, but I certainly, that's just part of how these numbers will work. If, and again, 6s in karma would, as far as her being a huge risk taker, would kind of hinder her in that respect as well, making it very hard for her to take risks. She was looking for safety. She was looking for this freedom. And so that's how she went about it. And so, so yeah, she's coming through and saying, and because she was so steeped in kind of her religious background, the people kind of went against her in some respects, because again, she was in the Catholic Church. They did not, she was marrying somebody else, and they don't recognize that. And so the public, I don't know so much if the Catholic Church condemned her for that, but the public did. Some of the public did. And so this was a good lesson for her to help to break her out of those rigid belief systems. And so that's kind of part of the whole thing for her, was now to, and because she was so still kind of, when you get married, you stay married, you don't get divorced. And so she's, she married older men, too, which kind of says a lot about her, this culture that was at the time, and these older men marrying younger women as trophy wives and not really seeing them for who they are. It's about how it makes them look, right? So again, she was kind of in a pattern here with her relationships, and she still stayed married. And because he was so much older than her, he was quite a bit older than her, and his son ended up dying, and which he ended up really struggling with and ended up passing away. So she, at the age of 45, found herself widowed again. And so this is when it really felt that she took control back of her life and started taking her power back, and started to really figure out who she was and what she wanted, not what everyone else was thinking she would be. And so you could really see her come back into more of her spiritual side, where she got back into the creativity, all of these things that she learned and could do. She went into book publishing and became an editor. And it really spoke a lot to women, because women looked up to her. And this is when women were starting to become independent. And this was such a wonderful thing for her as a leader to show the world, I'm raised my children, I'm going to work for myself and be this independent woman and provide for myself. And so she did that and gave a new way for women to look at their lives and their independence. And so she's very heralded as being this pioneer. And we, again, 5s are all about the pioneer energy, whether you want to or not. You tend to take something that already exists, but you can expand upon it, make it your own, and effect change, because she was all about learning, you know, and sharing and learning her wealth, because the threes are tied to your inner wealth, and learning how to separate that from materialism. So that's what the threes do, is it's all about money, but how it plays into your self-worth. And so she would find her self-worth. And then her third marriage ended up being with this wonderful man who really put Jackie first for the first time in her life. And he was kind of the person who stayed more in the shadows and gave her the love, this support. So again, she was ready for this, for a proper relationship, a healthy relationship, being able to be that independent woman, because her spiritual goals were all about her, you know, discovering and showing others the way. So, and emotionally connecting and being this member of society that people can look up to. And she did just a fabulous job through all of this tragedy, being so public, and just such a wonderful, loving person. So I'm going to start sharing the screen now, because we want to bring forth some messages directly from Jackie. And so we're going to pick Keepers of the Light, her, because she was very tied to the angels. So let's see what angel comes out for her. Oh, yep, and so we have the angel of Mercury, which Mercury is all about open communication. And that was her threes and her spiritual talents. And so this is get a weight off your chest, speak up with love, and be heard. And so she's sending this message out to everyone and this is what she did, is she spoke with love and reverence, and so it's important for us to do the same and not to hold things inside, because it can be so destructive. So that would be the angel that would. And it's funny how they Mercury, and he has the caduceus, kind of that medical, because again, our communication, and you know, this is a lot of this turquoise colored energy, which is, you know, love and very beautiful. But yeah, tied in with your health. So if you can think about how you communicate, and I'm going to go to the book for this one too, because I think there's something else here she's trying to get across. And I want to make sure that I'm bringing forward all the messages that she would like to share. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Mercury. So Mercury is the Roman god of messages and communication. In Greek mythology, he is known as Hermes. He has often been depicted with wings on his feet, representing his capacity to be swift and carrying a caduceus, the same healing wand that Archangel Raphael is known to carry. And he's the healer angel as far as like medical healing. As well as overseeing communication, he oversees the planet Mercury. When this goes retrograde, which means it appears to go backwards when seen from the Earth, communication can be delayed or difficult. We can call on Mercury for help with loving, honest, and open conversations, divination, and any form of expressive art such as writing, poetry, journalism, which is what she ended up getting involved with. He can also help us heal miscommunications that have caused distress. So again, that was a beautiful message, and how important it is to communicate. And with her having fives in karma, she initially struggled with being able to speak her truth, because again, as a child, being so impulsive, you get kind of shut down from and punished for doing that. But it's really important to allow people to speak their truth. And so we're going to go next to the Oracle of the Fairies. I just love this stuff. It's so beautiful. She's so beautiful and so soft energy. So that's why I think So abundance, and this is her number 4 in her chart. So it says, prepare yourself for incoming abundance. Release any mental blocks you may have. In fairyland and human land, there is enough abundance for everyone. So it's be careful, of the lack mentality, of, being jealous of others or wanting what others have, because we're all abundant beings. It's just when we come here, the veil is put down. And I just love this pink energy because that really signifies who she was, this loving energy and this beautiful flower, and with the magic, just a very gorgeous, soft, loving, flowing energy that 20-2 represents. So again, with abundance, you can have a lot of wealth in your life and have a lot of lack, because of these beliefs that we take on. And like I said, when we come over here and the veils on us, we are the ones who limit ourselves because we want those challenges. We don't want instant manifestation, instant gratification, even though our egos may try to trick us a little bit in that road. We are abundant beings. So we go next to the sacred destiny. Power. This is a great card. Power. I love this because how much do we don't recognize our own power? Look at that beautiful energy of the lightning and the dark clouds. We all go through the dark clouds, the dark times. So let's see what the power is here. So mountain thunder, like the fist of God thrusting up toward the heavens, the stark, ragged mountains holds firm as thunderbolts crash down on all sides. The sound is deafening as it echoes from mountain peak to mountain peak. Mountains represent strength, power, and permanence, as well as being a potent symbol for attaining spiritual heights as they extend into the sky towards the heavens. Thunder and lightning traditionally represent surging power, enlightenment, and revelations of divine matters. Thunder ignites our deeper self and activates our primal and deep emotions. Together, the mountain and thunder symbolize immense power, vitality, and strength. And you can be soft and loving and be powerful. She wants everyone to know that you don't have to stand in the shadows of anyone. You can still be soft, and it doesn't make you, less of a person or aggressive in any ways. Is to be true to yourself and to who you are. So, I'm planning on calling this living Camelot because, Camelot represents this idealism. And so kind of living an ideal. And so we can all live an ideal. It doesn't have to be in a castle. The mountain just kind of reminded me of that this reading is really tied to how she spoke about Camelot, and she loved her life in the White House. And part of manifesting is loving what you are currently in. And then, things will shift and change, but it's how we attract to us our own Camelot. So yeah, we're going to go to work your light. So we had Anna, grandmother of Jesus, pop right out. This is a very similar energy that she carries. So seeding the light, laying foundations, and the divine plan. So again, this is how this kind of looks like a Camelot with the kind of these pillars and, kind of this, we had Mercury come up with this Roman kind of, Egyptian too. The old ways, but then you see in the back there's like the earth and all this beautiful rose energy, And again, it's about laying these foundations in your life. So it's all of these, she wants to bring forward, you know, spiritual practices and things that keep us grounded, that get us out of these negative patterns of thinking. And because, and again, that's about letting go of the past. And so part of her soul destiny with having 8s is learning how to let go of the past. And so she was given a lot of opportunities to want to hang on to the past. But for her, it was, you know, 8s is a little bit of a struggle for them, because she was always, people tried to identify her as being Jackie Kennedy and Jackie O, you know, and that kind of takes a little bit away from who she came here to be. So she wants to kind of say that, you know, being who you are, not letting yourself get over identified with who others think you should be. So going to the wisdom of the oracle. Thank you, Jackie, for that. And so here we have, this is a wonderful card to come up. So she wants to talk about chaos and conflict. The number 33, which adds up to a 6, she had 6 in her karma. And so she had a 20-2. I didn't talk much about that in her spiritual goals, which can pull in when you are struggling with inner conflict. It can manifest in your outer world as, you know, she was in court fighting over different things in her life. One was over this reporter who kept crossing her boundaries. And so she did end up having to take him to court, get a restraining order, because that's about speaking your truth, and that's about your freedom and people encroaching on your boundaries. And so, but as she ended up in her 3rd marriage and she was still dealing with the same photographer, she ended up going back to court because, and then he agreed to, because he was very obsessed with her, and he admits that he was very obsessed with her, that he was going to leave her alone. And so as she continued to find her inner peace and find who she was and started living who she was, do you see how that kind of ended up resolving itself for her, where he walked away and said, you know what, I don't want, he was going to get fined and some other things. And he's like, you know what, I'm going to walk away from it, because that's when true healing for both parties takes place. So 33. So chaos and conflict, disarray, being at cross purposes with another, the tension of opposites, the value of chaos before order. So right now we're in a time of chaos. And, you know, we have a lot of warring going on. And so she wants to bring up, remember, out of chaos comes order. So opposing forces come together to create a turbulent atmosphere. But consider the value of chaos that serves you well as you become unmoored by it. Scattered to the winds, you leave behind the parts of yourself you no longer need and disperse seeds to reinvent yourself anew. Although the conflict appears to exist externally, its essence is also internal, projected outward and causing disarray. You may find yourself at cross purposes with someone else, facing a storm you feel you can't control. Yet every storm passes and chaos leads to a reordering of things. Conflict provides a way to see more than one side of a situation. Look upon this as just a moment in time when you may need to take shelter and step away from the fray. Don't be too eager to fight. This is a time to understand rather than to be understood. So again, talking about how we can heal outer conflict by all of us dealing with our own inner conflicts and our own conflicts in our life, because again, the world is just a reflection of our collective consciousness. So thank you, Jackie. That is exceedingly insightful. So I'm going to the animal oracle because we know she has great love of animals. And okay. Oh, this is so her. So we have the Dove card, 21, Dove Spirit, be peace. So I think this card speaks for itself. I love how the dove has this little pink crown. And isn't this just Jackie's spirit coming forward? Just so perfectly. And of course, the 21 adds up to 3, and 3 is her spiritual talent, all about communication and action, Mars energy as well. And being a leader, though, taking positive action, because her karmic 5s are about learning how to take positive action, not negative action. So she really wants to impress that upon you. Okay, and we're going to go next to the secret language of light. Yep. So this card comes out, which I think is very perfect because it's all about, we talked about letting go, and in order to move forward, it doesn't mean you have to forget. So it's not about confusing, but letting go of that pain, of that tragedy, that tomorrow doesn't have to manifest like yesterday. And it's about trusting in the flow and knowing that if something happens, you'll be able to handle it, that, you know, it's all here for us to learn from. So what a beautiful sword. I want to read on this one because that is, 9s are about endings, you know, the one in the 8 add up to 9. And so, okay, and so it talking about later in her life about taking, so it says, take back your power and thrive. Let all just be and take back your light. Stop trying so hard and breathe. Letting go does not mean jumping blindly into faith, but to release the resistance you hold about a subject, so your dreams and desires can be realized. We have all hung on to a person, a place, a job, or an idea because we think it will give us what we seek. But hanging on is the result of unbalanced thinking. This imbalance has you needing compensation. You created a deficit by compromising yourself, thinking that was the way toward your dreams. It was your choice to do that. Now it is your choice to let go and create from love instead of fear. You deserve to have what you want without compromising your truth. You cannot change what has occurred. However, you can change what you do from this moment on. No one has been placed upon this earth to make you happy, just as it is your responsibility to make anyone else happy. Just free yourself and everyone else of the idea that we must please others to be loved. You are loved and you are loved, no matter what has happened in yours or another's life. Well, that is so beautiful because, again, we talk about that early childhood and her taking on those patterns of pleasing others, putting others in front of herself, and how important our own self-love and self-care is. And that doesn't take away from doing for others and helping others. Again, it's about, though, putting others in front of you and not nurturing your own desires and your own needs, because then that creates a lot of this inner conflict. So we're going to get a message straight from her, talking to heaven. And so this definitely is something I can see she wants to share with us. So she says, although you may not understand it now, everything happens for a reason. So look at how the two pieces of the puzzle, things seem so puzzling, why she would lose her husband, why she would lose Bobby, why her children, things happen. And I do want to talk about, she does want me to bring up Patrick. Patrick was her last child and he died after several days. And so and I can't remember the exact diagnosis, but she wants me to bring forward that now, because it brought so much attention to Patrick dying of that particular condition, we focus some of our energy and our knowledge. And now what Patrick was born with can be easily cured now in children. At least that's my understanding. So it brought forth, so it's basically now saving other children's lives so they don't have to go through the same thing that she did. And that's what a lot, if we can remember when there's a huge tragedy in our lives, that you may not be able to see it now, but down the road it could just, there is a reason for it, and that to know that it isn't for nothing. It's forever, for all of our growth and our understanding and learning our compassion and empathy and how we deal with that. So I'm going to the Archangel Metatron Self-Mastery Oracle, because this was a person who was really gaining a lot of mastery in this life. She's, yeah, wouldn't change anything. And everybody, when I'm bringing people through, I never get regrets or, people, and everybody, when they're here wishes they maybe handled something differently, but it's really about you learning. So much pink. I was just noticing that about the card, but it's really about us learning the lessons. And so here is as above, so below, heaven and earth. And so again, we talked about Camelot being kind of like this heaven ideology. And this is number 41, which adds up to her 5. Again, that was kind of that freedom. Remember her trying to find that freedom through others, through marrying money, or somebody's going to, save her, rescue me, right? Take me away from all of this. Trying that avoidance. But so you are reminded that the rewards of heaven are accessible to you now here on earth. You do not have to wait for an imaginary place and state of plenty and peace, a heaven that is out of reach and inaccessible. Heaven can be here today, as can all the glories of the beauty of God available in each waking moment. This tree is so beautiful, and being in nature and seeing the beauty. And like she said, when she was out riding her horses, and I can relate to that because I raised horses. I have 5s in my karma, the same as Jacqueline did. And so I completely understand her hiding behind others, that fear is speaking your truth. And so look at the symmetry of the majestic blossoming tree reflected in the water. It shows that all is the same, both above and below. We realize this when we stop to pause and consider all that we came from, all that we are, and all that we will become. The cycle of life and the sacred wheel shows us there is no beginning and no end. Likewise, there is no place outside ourselves. It is all connected, all joined, all one. The soft, luscious colors of the tree and its bountiful riches speak to our hearts of the jewels of the heaven, which are free to all, not needing to be earned or worked toward. This represents our natural state of abundance, joy, and our eternal birthright, always, all of us. Overladen with petals, the flowering branches reaching out and extending down to the earth offer enough for everyone. It's just waiting to be noticed, appreciated, and absorbed. Heaven is here, it says. Look at this exquisite splendor and see it reflected not just in the waters of the lake, but within yourself. For you hold all this treasure within you: beauty, light, love, grace, and wonder. You are but a reflection of the divine. It can be no other way. You are a mirror image of that from which you came and to where you will return. The principle, as above, so below, is also important for you right now. Be aware of the need to honor both your divine and earthly states, and do not neglect your own physical self at the expense of the spiritual, or vice versa. The body's need, good food, enough rest, time to relax, are just as important as the desire to expand intuition, learn more, meditate, and so on. It may also be that you need to balance planting your own roots firmly and deeply, nourishing what is below with allowing what is above to flower and thrive and be sustained. That was similar to the message Anna, the grandmother of Jesus, is always saying about laying that foundation, seeding the light, the divine plan. So spiritual growth requires both opening up to higher states and grounding yourself. Otherwise, anything gained is temporary, fleeting, and unbalanced. Pulling this card implies that attention to this is required now. We all need to be nurturing ourselves and balancing the spiritual and physical, taking care of ourselves too. Otherwise, we, don't have much to give others if we're not fully loving ourselves. So you're also encouraged to take that which is learned and acquired and bring it to the everyday, whether you be a healer, teacher, shop worker, or engineer, to walk your light, plant it, and be the bridge between heaven and earth, for you are truly the embodiment of both. Earth is your home, heaven is here with us. Look and seek, and you will find it and be it. Oh, thank you, Jackie. That is just amazing. I just cannot get over how much pink we have going on here, which is all about the love. Okay, we're going to end this reading. Thank you so much, Jackie. I'm going to pull a final mantra. And we are going to, and then I'll ask and see if any other messages come through. But this is a healing mantra that I do, and it's from the Healing Mantra deck by Matt Kahn. And so this is about invoking self-realization. And so what this is good for, this mantra, okay, so self-realization is a spontaneous remembrance of your interconnection to all that is. You are willing to embrace your individuality as a unique expression of source in physical form by aligning with the breath, which meditation does that too. You see that while you appear to be a person, it is the universe and the breath that breathes it's the universe that breathes everything into existence. This mantra is ideal for reducing stress, managing pain, and relaxing the nervous system. So please repeat after me. Each breath confirms how awake I already am. Each breath confirms how awake I already am. Each breath confirms how awake I already am. So that's going to be the mantra for this video. And so, yeah, she's coming through and I can see her all in pink. So that's just perfect, right? And she wants to thank everybody, and she's sending out her love and her compassion and empathy for anybody going through conflict, the Ukraine, Syria, the Palestinian area, Afghanistan, as I always mentioned before, that to make sure that we're working on our inner peace and standing in our light, so that that is the best way that we can help the suffering of others. And she says that out of all of this chaos will come order. So she really wants to let everybody know to take a deep breath and really trust in that flow, that things will, that people through their suffering, that will bring more elevation of consciousness. This is all meant to happen. And you, as she had said, she wanted me to point back to this card again, although you may not understand it now, everything happens for a reason. And so she really wants to leave on that note and to thank everybody and send her love. And she's sending much love to her grandchildren and to Caroline, of course. So I'm going to have to go because I can just feel her great love for her family. And it's really inspiring. I'm sure they miss her, but they're always with us. So you have to look for the signs. So with that, please like, share, and subscribe. And I will sending you much love, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.